Hi everyone and welcome. We're in my wormery and we're going to feed the worms today. What you can see down here is the food supply. It's a variety of lettuce and mango peels and banana peels and potato peels and a couple bags of rice and my old staple of coffee grinds. These two of my newest bins. Even though they're new bins, these covers got kind of reused from a previous composting session, so they look pretty dingy, and I'm going to reuse those to lay in a little bit of extra bedding into this bin right here. This bin received a little bit of extra bedding the other day. I put in some paper in there. That was when I removed the bait bombs from these finishing bins. I've got a video on that if you'd like to see it. I'll leave the link in the corner. But the feeding's going to be just a run-of-the-mill feeding, except for the fact that a couple bins are getting upgraded with new cover papers, and this bin right here is getting some fresh bedding. So, all right, let's get the camera up on the table and let's get to work. Okay, so the two that we're starting with are going to be my two newest bins. You can see that there's a piece of coffee filter that I use to indicate where I'm feeding. On these bins, I'm still feeding right down the middle. That's where the food's been getting positioned. You can see these mango seeds are popular. They like to just crawl in there and start chewing up the inside of the mango seed. I believe this bin is pretty densely packed with all kinds of food items that are very slow composting, like this mango seed. So if I find something like that, I'm just going to set it off to the side here. Corn cobs, all these slow composting items were all removed from my other bins and placed into this and the other bin, the two newest bins, since it's imagined that these bins have a fair amount of time to go. So we're starting to see some worms in here. I'm going to take some of these hard, slow composting food items and just set them aside here, so we can see how the worms are coming along. Yeah, you got a ton of worms in here. Big time worm population. Huh. You know, I was going to add bedding only to the two oldest, or to one of the oldest bins. I'm starting to wonder if this bin might benefit from some fresh bedding as well. I think for now I'm not going to worry too much about it. I think all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this is just a mass of worms. I don't know if there's much of anything else in here, maybe a sheet of paper or something, but it's just a pile of worms. Alright, so I'm going to just move all these little guys off to the edge of the feeding zone. And I do believe that the same way I sort of acknowledge that the two of my older bins could use a little more bedding, I believe that the next time I get around to feeding these bins, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to be dropping in a little bit more bedding. I'm going to go ahead and take all of these food items, the old food items, and drop them back down into the bottom. I normally don't go clear to the bottom, down to the bottom of the plastic bin. Usually I'll put in some bedding, but I just don't have any on hand really right now, so I guess lack of preparation is my main reason for not doing what I probably should be doing. No big deal. So here we have some handful of potato peels. I'm going to give them a banana peel. Maybe two banana peels and a hunk of lettuce. How does that sound? Maybe even a few slivers of mango peel. That looks like a nice generous feeding. And let's not forget to top it off with a few other things. I got some rice, which I've learned that they seem to enjoy. I'm going to put a fair amount of that in here. And then my typical staple food item, some spent coffee. Pretty dry. Stuff must have been sitting around for a while now. Oh, whatever, that's fine. It is getting warmer though. The warmer months, I can imagine, is the reason the stuff is tending to dry out a bit now. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cover up the feeding zone again, and while I'm at it, just doing a quick inspection of the outlying areas, and definitely seeing very few signs of any kind of bedding for them. Like little knobs of worms here and there. Just as I find another hard, slow composting item, I just want to plop it down into the active feeding zone. Gotta say that this bin is progressing very, very rapidly. I mean, when you got this many worms, you know, you got so many worms, they do work through their foods very quickly. So like I said, this is going to be getting a new sheet of paper. So I'm not going to replace the old one. The old one, I'm just going to keep it here on the table because we're going to use it as bedding once we get around to bin number 3. So we'll just move this little guy up onto the shelf and get the next one out here. Okay, so same story here. This bin's going to be receiving an upgrade to its newspaper cover, and my feeding zone indicator coffee filter is I think in need of replacement as well, so I think we're going to give this thing a new feeding zone indicator as well. So I'm pretty much going to do the same thing here, and I believe we're probably going to encounter much of the same conditions in this one as we just saw, since these are both kind of, you know, in pace with each other, having been built the same day with about the same number of worms and been managed similarly. It's fair to expect that their progress is similar to one another. So corn I'm always finding to be one of those slow composting food items. Got some more mango seeds in here, and I think just like we saw before, just what appears to be nothing other than a mass of worms. Yeah, craziness here. Definitely could use some more bedding in this one as well. Let's just move these little guys off to the side. I'm guessing it's the same story over here. Yeah, just tons and tons of worms in here. Alright, guess we'll treat this one the same as we did the last one. We'll plop in the old food items. It's going to be maybe a handful of potato peels, a couple banana peels, a little bit of lettuce, and then we're going to dump in a little bit of rice and a little bit of coffee grind. Alright, let's cover up and check the outer edges while we're at it. Yeah, it's all very much broken down, compost only for the most part on the edges. I'm wondering if a bin like this would benefit from just being left for a while, and then some of those slow composting food items might eventually actually get broken down. If I keep feeding them nice soft food every week or so, then, you know, it doesn't give them much inspiration to work on the harder to eat slow composting food items. They're just gonna go for what's soft and easy to eat and keep neglecting all those slow composting food items. Just trying to get a sense of what some of this stuff is. It does look very nice, but I can see that a lot of this is still like leafy material, so there are still some significant amounts of the original material that the bin was built with. There's a fair amount of crushed dry leaves used to build the bin and stuff like that. So here's the cork. Cork never seems to go anywhere. That's another kind of one of those things which I wonder if it's just a waste of time to keep it in the bin. Alright, very nice. Let's just go ahead and get this one another fresh coffee filter as the feeding zone indicator. And oops, keep these little guys in the bin. Other little guys trying to escape. Alrighty, and next bin. Alright, so these bins are now getting to be a little bit older, and so now this is the bin that I was intending to put the bedding into for those 2 pieces of paper that we just removed from the other 2 bins, the covers. So I'm going to actually use this old paper as bedding material for the feeding zone in here. So the feeding zone is on this edge now. This bin's been in horizontal migration mode now for about a month or so, and it's actually the second horizontal migration. We're gonna pull everything back, and here, like I said, we're gonna be dropping in a whole bunch of bedding. So we're gonna first we're gonna see how the last feeding is progressing. It's very similar to what we saw in the last couple bins. Not many signs of the food, just tons and tons of worms. Definitely got a nice healthy population in this bin too. Seems like the horizontal migration is doing a pretty good job rounding up the worms over on this edge. The material seems very nice too, got a good moisture content to it. There's really no discernible odor. Okay, so here, the game plan was to drop in a couple pieces of paper as bedding for these little guys. I got a feeling they're going to like that. Once we get to the last bin, we're going to see that there's already a few pieces of paper like this down in there already. Once we get over there, I'm curious because that was placed in there just a couple days ago, so I'm wondering how far along that paper might be, if they've started eating it or what. A couple banana peels, some lettuce, some mushroom pieces, more lettuce, some mango peel, and a couple more of these things we've been adding to the other bins as well, with the a portion of rice and a little portion of coffee grinds. Okay. They should enjoy that. Okay, so I'm going to start pushing things back over. But at this point, I'm also curious to see how the last feeding zone is coming along. What else we have here? Some banana peels from the previous feeding. Let's just make sure we got all these food items that got scooped out of the feeding zone, get them back down in the hole. So we're just going to cover up. I guess what we're covering up with here is mostly just a big wad of worms. There's another banana peel, and I'm going to drop down in the hole. Okay, very nice. In a bin like this, I mean, you really gotta wonder if it's getting close to completion time. It seems like it is. But I wanted to just peek down into here, how the old feeding zone is coming along since we switched over to the opposite side not too long ago. Definitely a lot of worms, but not nearly as many as we saw in the feeding zone. Very densely populated bins. It's kind of typical for me, right? I always have very densely populated bins, so it's not unusual here. Alrighty, so we're on to the last bin. Alright. So now, as I mentioned earlier, there's already a bunch of bedding in here, and the bedding is from the bait bombs. If you saw the video where I was taking the bait bombs that I had placed into my finished compost tubs, I brought over those bait bombs along with all the worms that they rounded up and dropped them into here. So what I have in here, if we move some material and the worms aside, is here, see, a whole bunch of newspaper in here already from just a few days ago. So I think as far as bedding is concerned, we're still in pretty good shape with this. I was curious to see how a couple days worth of progress might look. It seems like they've started to make their way through that newspaper as well. Very nice in here. Yeah, it's banana peels, a couple banana peels in here. Let's get them back down in the pit. There's another one. This is some sort of the stem of something, maybe the stem of a banana. And more banana peel. Yeah, I guess it's been only 6 days since I fed this bin, so the banana peels are getting broken down pretty nicely, but it's not surprising that there's still bits of it lingering still in here. I think what we're going to do is save a little bit of some. I'm going to set aside a banana peel as well as a couple pieces of cucumber. I want to take a peek inside of my nursery bin, the bin that I've got some European nightcrawlers hanging out in. With the exception of those pieces, everything else is going in. Okay. We're going to deplete the rice supply that we came down here with, as well as the coffee supply we came down here with. Like I've been mentioning for a couple feedings now, since this is my oldest bin, I do want to try to feed it with food items that are fairly soft and quick composting. So that's why I've been putting all things like what you saw here, things that hopefully get broken down in a fairly short a period of time. So let's start moving stuff back over to cover up. Let's take a peek at how the other side's looking. Get things leveled off here for the most part. Let's go get that little nursery bin out here and see how the European nightcrawlers are coming along. The ones that were put into this bin as cocoons still, and were hatched in this bin, and have only been in this bin for just a few weeks. So let's see how they're progressing. Alrighty, so there we go. I've just been propping this up a little bit so we can better see what's happening in here. Try to tip the angle over and take a peek inside. Well, I have been periodically poking my nose into this one to see how things are progressing, and I did actually drop a little bit of rice in here as sort of a trial the other day. It does seem like they're kind of chewing through this piece of paper towel. Seem to like that a lot, actually. So I'm just wondering what we're going to see down in here. I had at one point put down a piece of corn cob. That's right here. Here it is. And I can definitely see worms. I could see a bunch of little tiny baby worms cruising around. Some sort of paper, kind of bedding type materials. These are leaves, I believe. I think things are looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and plop in these couple extra food items. And we're going to cover up. Even though we don't see much action yet, hopefully we'll see more soon. 500 cocoons you would hope to see a large number of worms cruising around pretty soon. So, alright everyone, that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. And if you did, consider subscribing to the channel. That's always appreciated as well. Alright everyone, I'm out of here. Have a great day. Bye now.